Hi, Bill. Hi, Nina.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Some light that's in the way here.
Do you know if generally the agenda is put up? Do I share screen? Do you guys need to see that?
You're welcome. You want to
Everyone
try
has
one?
their agenda? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I was talking. Didn't realize I was on mute. Sorry.
That's okay. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Happy Monday.
Yay.
That probably means something to some people more than others.
Nina, Monday is always Monday.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I have trouble telling if it's Saturday.
Oh, yeah, good point. So Dawn is not going to be joining us this afternoon.
Not good.
I know, poor friend. Geesh. So, everybody got, sorry for all that kind of discombobulated stuff, putting Tara Bradley on that email. Poor Tara Bradley. She was just coming back from vacation too. So let me tell you.
It's funny because there's Tara Bradley and then there's Tara Johnson that we all regularly get each other's emails. And then there's Tara Filipich. They used to be in finance. And if you want to talk about confusion now with Faust,
Yeah, I know. I can imagine. Uh, Well, anyway, officially, welcome. Dusty, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I know you're under a lot of stress. Getting the board packet out. Unfortunately, our meeting always happens at about this time. I mean, in the board packet land. Sometimes it's even worse. Oh, no, sometimes I know. Anyway, it's never really great.
I'm just getting kind of used to things as far as, how each committee operates. So it's my understanding now that the finance committee meets solely on Zoom and I run that Zoom.
Correct.
Is that okay? Perfect.
Yes. Okay. Now, do you want to share the agenda or do you want me to do it? I guess I think you have to enable the, we are the best committee. We are.
Okay,
Yeah,
let me
I mean,
locate it and I could put it up on the screen.
okay, that's fine. Or, you can also enable sharing and, other people can do it too.
Yeah, just give me 1 second.
No, you're fine. Take your time. I want to give introductions and let everybody talk a little bit about themselves because we've got new people and not everybody knows one another. First of all, I just like to welcome Nina. It's very exciting to have you on the committee and really happy that you're here. And just like to invite you to say a little something about yourself and why you wanted to be on the finance committee.
Well, can everybody hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just interested in following what's going on with the money and how things operate within Nepenthe. Moved here about 4 years ago. Raised our children in Arden Park, and they've been gone for quite some time, and we just want to let go of some of that responsibility. So that's why we're here, and I have a strong business background, so I'm hoping I can have some good addition to this committee.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, you know me, and but we haven't ever really talked about finance committee stuff. I'm just gonna I'll introduce myself and give a chance for Will and Tara to talk about themselves too. And then after that, we can listen to our esteemed new board liaison. But so I'm Susan Timmer, as you know. Nina, just for everybody's information, happens to be a close neighbor. I could throw her a present from where I'm sitting right now, practically. Yeah. Here's a nice bottle of wine, Nina, catch. I've been on the finance committee for, I think, about 7 years. And, but 1 year kind of blends into the other, but I think it was like 2016 or 2015 that I started serving on this finance committee. And I don't think I said anything for about the first year because, and so you will have a great advantage because you've already been listening and attending finance committee meetings. So you kind of know what the drill is, but I really didn't know a thing when I first came on. And I think is this my 3rd year of being chair of the committee? I think so. Yeah. And as I say at the beginning of every year, it's not because I'm the smartest person in the group or the smartest person about finance practices, but I do have a pretty good memory about what we've been doing and remember some of the smart things that other people say. So that helps. And I really joined the finance committee because I felt like the dues were going up so fast, and I wanted to see firsthand what the drivers were of the increased dues and whether there was anything that we could do to slow down the process. And since I've been on the finance committee, they weren't my ideas, they were mostly Will's. Actually, we found a couple of ways to save money, and found a couple of little errors in the reserve study. So I think we've done a pretty good job altogether and working towards keeping our dues down. But yeah, it's a tough job because there are not a lot of places where we can really save. But anyway, that was my reasoning for joining it. Now, how about Tara? You're next down.
Hi, so I've been a homeowner since 2016, and I joined the committee in, I believe it was 2019, at the prompting of my then boyfriend going like, how much are you paying in HOA dues? I had looked at the reserves, I looked at the finances, but I saw it continuing to go up about $20 a year and probably figured I should better understand it. I have an accounting, finance, audit, business operations, management background, via some of my work when I was in public accounting and through my internal audit stuff is I can find the needle in the haystack. I know that we had worked through some of the way the tax expenses were being hit, but I was just interested in better understanding where's our money going, where's the glut of it, how do we differ from other areas. I've been in HOAs, including Serrano. I also have property in Whitney Ranch, so familiar with those as well. And just trying to find ways to keep our community as beautiful as it is, while not continuing to have my HOA dues increase to the point it exceeds my mortgage.
Amen to that. Will, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I've been in the Pente for 26 years. And I started on the finance committee, I think about 18 or 19 years ago. I then was on the board for a total of 8 years with a break of 1 year in there. And then back on the finance committee. My background is I spent my first career in law enforcement, mostly federal law enforcement, and as a manager. And my second career is a sub-profit. Sac State, where I was taught criminal justice, and I was department chair for 9 years. And I've since been retired for several years. My focus ever since I got on finance, and it was kind of an accident that I ended up on finance, but my focus has actually been just maintaining fiscal viability. My graduate work, both at the master's and doctoral level, is in public policy and administration. And so I kind of focused on policy issues, and I realized that all the incentives for a board are inclined to discourage short-term fiscal responsibility, because you've always got to be the bearer of bad news. And because of the way the reserve fund works, a board can get away with being irresponsible in effect for several years before anybody really is aware of it. So because it won't show up until downstream considerably, because assuming you start with assets. So my main focus has always been on making sure that we faced up to whatever our realities were in terms of financial responsibility, and saved wherever we can. I've managed to save in a few spots, but I sort of run out of ideas.
Thanks, both of you. And I would also like to introduce to everybody Bill Henley, who's our new board liaison. recently elected to the board and serving as the treasurer. Bill, do you want to say a few words?
Sure. My problem is sometimes I say too many words, so somebody can mute me if they want. And that, but first of all, I was just looking here. We've got 10 participants here. That's tremendous. You know, when I look at, we have the finance committee and we have others that have an interest in what we're doing. I think that's great because that's what makes our community. And that from the board's perspective, and from my perspective, we look to the finance committee to, focus forward and, provide comment and guidance relative to what we're doing, particularly with the reserves and with our budgets and working with management so that we can minimize potential increases to dues and that we are acknowledging our fiduciary responsibility. So I'm just going to leave it at that. My background, you've already seen that in all the election stuff, but just to quickly summarize, my background is in accounting, banking, 40 years in financial services, and now I have a small consulting practice and manage farming operations here in Northern California. So I've been an Nepenthe resident since August of 2016. And I'm open for questions.
Susan, I would like to mention that we don't have the agenda. It doesn't appear we have the agenda up. We have an email list up.
Yeah,
Can you not see the agenda? Because it's
No.
up on my end.
yeah,
No,
you have
what I
to,
have is an email. What we have is an email that shows the agenda as an attachment, but
you have to reshare the right screen, your email, your Outlook screen.
Okay. Let me work on that for you real quick.
Well, the next thing on our agenda, and just want to thank everybody for introducing. I'm sure we'll get to know each other a little bit better and find out each other's strengths and opinions and kind of motivating forces over the year, and look forward to making that journey together. Now I would like to open the floor to homeowner comments and questions. Anything from homeowners?
Susan, can you verify if you could see the agenda now, or is it still my
Yes.
showing my
it's
email?
good.
Okay, thank you.
Can everybody see it okay, or do you need it? Is it big, the font big enough?
If you can zoom in a little bit, that would be great.
That's good.
Okay.
Where I'm
perfect.
gonna have LASIK next year.
So I'll kind of scroll down a little bit here. Okay.
So I'm not hearing anything from homeowners. So I'll move forward, and I will say that this month, if you look on the standards and practices for the finance committee, this month is sort of a light month. And it's probably because it's a new committee and we're just kind of getting settled. So thankful for that. Because next month things will kind of start to get a little bit more active with new budgeting, and Dusty, probably are you working on sending numbers to Bob Browning and so forth now for the update for the reserve?
Yes, well, that is coming in preparation for the next budget season. Yes, we're going to be updating him on everything.
And he usually comes to meet with us in August. Could you put on your to-do list to email him and set up that meeting? We're the fourth Monday, so
Sure.
that is the 28th.
And it's Bob that you're accustomed to hearing from?
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I don't think Mike has ever done, Mike Browning has ever done, in-person meetings before, so I'll reach out to Bob.
I think that would be great.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you
So,
say there was gonna be an in-person meeting in August?
no, sorry, it'll be in Zoom, but Bob will join the meeting for that. So we'll be able to, he'll be able to present the reserve study or whatever he's thinking about and talk us through it, and we'll be able to ask him questions. Yeah,
It's typically been over Zoom.
yeah. Okay, I'm just making a
It's
note.
also our chance to have input to Bob about anything that needs to be worked into that we think needs to be at least attended to in the preparation of the reserve study.
Yeah. Is this year an on-site?
Since the end of August, a little late to start that process, question mark.
You can just put your questions in the chat, Carol, that'd be great. Dusty, is this year a site visit year for Browning?
I can look into that. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked, but yes, it's every 3 years for a full site. I just need to see where we're at.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking it was this year because I think we all thought it was last year and then we were wrong. But yeah,
Okay.
so if you could check on that, that would be fantastic too.
Yeah, I would do that.
All right. Okay, so updates from the board or management on anything that we need to know. Dusty, thank you for the information about the pool. And you know, what's going on there. That's a kind of interesting news update that it would be good to have at
Mhm.
these committee meetings. We haven't like had a lot of things come up, you know, but
Right.
things that have been approved at the last board meeting. Or things that, you know, expenditures that have been approved and would be useful to know.
As far as
Anything
the
else?
pool, if there's anything specifically that you want to know about the pool, the work just started. So of course, you know, we haven't seen those invoices come in. So they're not gonna, you know, reflect as far as that goes. But if anybody has any questions about those ongoing expenses, you know, please let me know.
Do you know what the proposed budget is on that? I mean, that could be put under the pending expenses if there's an approved.
Yeah, it needs to be added to the tracker now that it's approved and now that the work has begun. So it will be added to the tracker so that we could see those expenses.
Okay.
I
Was
didn't
it-
see the tracker come in. Did we get a tracker?
Yeah, I sent that out this morning, Nina. Did you?
What was sent out didn't look like the tracker to me.
Oh, what?
No, it was a list of some pending projects.
No, oh, you have to
So
click
did-
on that's the third tab. So click on the first tab.
Okay, it's on first tab. All right, all right.
Yeah. Was that the problem with what you saw, Nina?
Well, I was just looking. I didn't see it come out. I saw
So it's
the
with
message from about the pool. I was on all those, but I'll look
Well, let me just see.
again.
So it was included as an attachment when Susan sent out the agenda. The tracker was on there as well.
So it was Monday at 9:45 a.m., if that helps.
Okay, thank you. I'll look.
And it's, the subject line is standard, FC standards and practices.
Got it.
etc.
Yeah, I saw that. Okay, I get it.
Sure.
There it is. Thank you. Okay, got it. Found it. I didn't see that come through. I probably didn't pay attention because it was standards and practice.
Yeah.
It was like a reiteration of an old thing, so I should have read it, so.
And just to give everybody kind of some context, you know, and a reminder, you know, my start date here at Nepenthe was April 24th. So my regional manager is still kind of jumping in, serving as kind of, you know, the interim manager, helping onboard me onto the association. So she is still updating the reserve tracker until I get familiar with updating that tracker. So I think there were 3 pending expenses that still need to be updated, but other than that, the reserve tracker, she's updated the tracker, and it's just those 3 pending expenses with critical path reconstruction that haven't been updated yet.
Yeah, thanks.
So we
Dusty.
don't have an update then on the cost of the siding, is that what you're saying?
No, these are just the pending expenses.
Okay.
They need to be, she's waiting for a couple clarifications to plug that number in. But the whole rest of the tracker, those are just the 3 pending expenses. The rest of the tracker has all been updated.
Yeah. Okay, so pool follow-up, any other updates from the board or management? And,
from the-
yeah, Bill,
Yeah, from the board, I think everybody saw the projects which were approved and published in the last newsletter and that. But looking forward, one of the things that I've asked and I've spoken with the other liaisons is that when committees have projects that they're going to be recommending to the board, that they also key into the finance committee so that we might determine, finance committee might offer recommendations and advise the board as to implications on reserves. Because I think it's important that we look forward on what those are, so the board is knowledgeable as to what the implications are to reserves when we have situations such as the pool or, you know, any other major project, and how does that, you know, stack up looking forward.
anybody have any response or thoughts about that kind of thing? Team?
I think it's a good idea. I think some of the, I don't know how best to funnel that information versus, you know, looking at some of the details of those committee meeting minutes or being able to funnel them to our esteemed chair. But it would be helpful, because then we can take a look at it, determine the impact on the reserves, if any, and at least let the board know. So just not necessarily, the board has not asked for an opinion, but just letting them know what we are viewing from our end.
Yeah, to me, it seems like a little bit of a long process. I think it's a good idea too, especially in areas where we've already spent a lot of money, and, you know, landscaping is probably the only committee that, you know, consistently spends a lot, that has where the work they do has a big effect on our budget. The only thing, and I'm just talking here, right? I'm not, this isn't like we should do this or anything, but I think grounds is used to kind of deliberating about the importance of certain projects over others, and then recommending to the board that they move on, say, certain important projects that have implications for, say, irrigation or drainage or something, you know, critical. And then they vote on that at a board meeting. They're brought to the board at a meeting. They vote on it at the board meeting and approve it. So it's not really clear where we would fit in. And maybe that's what you're talking about, Tara, like not sure how that flow would go. Like, is that before a committee moves on recommending to the board that and certain actions be taken, or what?
Well, you know, the purpose of the reserve tracker, the primary purpose should be to, you know, essentially to notify the board and keep the board apprised of what the status is. So, for instance, and it's pretty simple to read, you know, so you can look at it and say, this is how much we've committed this year. This is how much we've spent this year. It's pretty obvious what the impact is going to be. We're either going to go over projected expenditures or we're not. Now, going over projected expenditures in the reserve isn't like, doesn't have exactly the same implications that it does in the operating budget. But if you send it through finance, you're going to delay the entire process. Unless you can get it, unless we can get it here and get any information to the board by the next meeting. I mean, otherwise it throws it a month out of cycle, you know, a month behind cycle.
I think
Well, it seems
perhaps,
like
perhaps
the
thought
tracker's
on-
already behind, right? It's already a month or two behind.
Well, it's not really a month or two behind. And I mean, in the sense that like the operations financials or the financial packet that we get, yes, that's a month behind. We're looking at May financials. But
Yeah.
what Dustin sent us is updated through the 22nd of June. So
Yeah.
that's a lot more updated than, you know, the financial packet that we get. I mean, it's missing a couple of things. It's missing those items that Dusty mentioned. It's missing the pool proposal. But, you know, as far as earmarked funds go, but you're right, it should be a really good indicator that, you know, like rate of spending.
Well, if we're really behind, if we don't have the updated finances on the pool and the especially the siding and fencing, those are pretty big ticket items, at least the siding and fencing, and they're ongoing big ticket items. So the sooner we get those updated, the better, because you know, by the time we give information to Browning, we're not going to have a lot of reaction time. So it feels like we are behind at this point. And I understand what you're saying, the updated financials here, you know, everything else except the
Hi, how are you? Nice to see you too.
Ashley.
That's your new car?
Yeah.
Whoa,
Ashley, can you please
Sorry.
mute yourself?
Okay, sorry.
We pretty much know exactly what's happening in siding and fencing. We're running, you know, we're running about 150% of the projected expenses and about 180% of the contract price. So even though we might not have the latest figures in there, the trend has been pretty consistent, and it doesn't look like there's any chance it's going to change, unfortunately, before this phase is finished. And
okay, but we know that we're about 150%, but those numbers aren't in here for the general public to come look at.
Okay, please
That's what
keep
I'm
in
saying.
mind that the reserve tracker is a working document. There's always going to be changes because we're always going to be getting invoices and change orders that are being approved.
Sure, of
So
course, of
that
course.
gets plugged into the report. So it's a working document.
yeah,
Uh,
and I assume that
Just
this,
if I
this
may share a couple
information-
thoughts. If I might share a couple thoughts and observations. the reserve tracker is a working document. And committees, whether it be finance or whether it be outreach, or whether it be grounds, or not finance, but insurance and safety. There will be from time to time that they'll be making recommendations. And those committees typically meet in front of the finance committee, which meets at the tail end of the month. And if there's recommendations coming from those committees after they've, gotten their recommendations and costings that they're going to be suggesting to the board, it would seem that that could be passed through management, and management could apprise finance, and finance could then opine as to the implications on reserves or other expenses. And that's a forward-looking process. I think that clearly the tracker that we have here, and recognizing it is a working document, needs to be caught up. And perhaps we need to figure out how we can look forward to say, okay, where's this take? Where are we going? And as Will says, yeah, it isn't hard to figure it out, but I think it's important that we as a committee and the committee recommend to the board have some insight, so we're not looking at after the fact. And I'm just trying to think forward. So perhaps let's give some thoughts on how we can do that.
I am assuming that this, in the case of the pool project, that we don't have the numbers in there yet because we didn't have them until the last minute, or if that's, I don't know if that's the case or not.
Well, you just have to understand that we're in a transitional period. I'm just
Yeah.
coming on, being onboarded as your new manager, learning the Pente, learning your processes and procedures. And at the same time, I still have Andy kind of, working alongside me. She's not out here every day anymore. It's kind of, her presence in the community has dropped off a little bit, but she's still kind of helping behind the scenes, mainly with this reserve tracker and with the reserve expense authorizations. She still kind of, is taking those responsibilities and giving me the opportunity to kind of get well-versed with Nepenthe and kind of get settled in a little bit. So I have not taken over updating the reserve tracker. I will eventually. So it just might've been something that like, whoops, we need to add these new
Okay.
reserve components into the reserve tracker. Which they will be, but they just got started. We definitely haven't received any invoices coming in. No money has gone out yet. It's just an approved project that's just gotten underway.
Right. Yeah. Well, so it's more the transition than it is the.
It's
type.
definitely the transition. Once,
Okay.
I have some time under my belt here
But-
and, kind of get.
Once the
going with
money is
those.
allocated by the board, it ought to be impending. But I understand your
Right.
point about transition.
Yeah, I think it all happened when you came on board. They approved the proposal and started scheduling and stuff and.
Yeah,
Andy
that
certainly.
proposal was approved back in May.
Yeah, it was approved the beginning of May and I came on April 24th. So it was
Yeah,
just,
Yeah, exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
So,
Yeah,
and it just never got to this committee, finance committee. So,
Yeah.
but
And I just want to say to, Dusty, that we are your support team too. And if we are like, why wasn't this done? Don't feel, like we're not accusing you of anything. We know how much stuff you have to do. And, if there's something that we catch, it's not, your fault. It's all of our responsibility to kind of just keep eyes on stuff. So, don't feel like, I know you don't feel like you did anything
No,
wrong. but
I commend the finance committee for the work that you do. Just sharing a little bit of background, as far as the association that I come from an underfunded association with such a low level of participation that we could have greatly used the help of a finance committee and really had people that were engaged. So I just, I really, look forward to working with you guys in the future.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
thanks. I hope we can be helpful and, I just want you to know that we come from a place of support, not criticism.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I mean, the advantage of the reserve tracker is it's just really simplifies what's otherwise an obscure process and makes it a lot easier for everybody, management, the board, and the finance committee to understand exactly where we are. Otherwise, the information is dispersed and the probability of people understanding exactly where we are decreases substantially. So it's kind of a giant step forward in terms of simplicity.
Yeah. For us particularly. I know. I mean, it's not that the information isn't in the well, it's not as up to date in the financial packet, but it's all like there's ops stuff and reserve stuff all kind of in the same little boat, and it's just so much easier to keep track of things when they're separated.
And it's not real time and doesn't have obligated money. That's the problem.
Yeah.
If you've got $50,000 in obligated money and it's not in the financial reports, it doesn't exist,
Yeah.
in terms of your documents.
And I want to add to, just in terms of that obligated money, that's why I'm like not as concerned about missing a couple of invoices for the siding project, because the obligated money is in there. So we know how much, it looks like we're going to have to pay. And plus we're going to have to pay a little more, but it's closer to what we really have to, look forward to spending. Okay, looking at just moving forward to old business, I did the same thing here that I did last year, and we kind of kept this running list of things we wanted to remember to tell Browning that we needed to change. Is there anything else that we need to put on this list that you all
Well,
can think
I
of?
need to ask Dusty, did the diagrams, the plot,
Yes, they just came today.
came
I sent
today.
out an email to you, Bill, and to Marcus Dasher, because I know that you had met to discuss,
Right.
how to go about, counting the sheets for the purpose of, keeping the reserve study updated. And we did get those plans today.
Okay, well, I can come over and pick them up tomorrow then probably.
Okay.
That was Dusty's question. Like, what do we do with them now that we have them?
Yeah,
So
I didn't know who was gonna be responsible for pick, because we only get one set. They're $80. I just can't, we can have them copied, but we get one set,
Well, we're gonna have to use those to try to calculate. And we don't know if it's gonna work, but the project is to try to calculate the number of sheets from those, and we're going to look at the first three sets of units. There was the first four sets, there were three unit units, a 4-unit and a 5-unit or something. I'll have to look back at the diagram. And if we can get close to the number of sheets on those units, then we'll have to go back to the invoices, count the number of units that were replaced, and then we'll finally have a percentage. But until I get the sheets and I can sit down with them and work with them and measure them, I don't know if it's going to work or not.
Do you have any sense, Will, at all, if we're Is it under 50% that they're replacing? Is it a third? Is it, I'm just
Oh,
trying to
it's
get some kind
clearly
of
under
feel for
50%. If I had to guess a number, I'd say it's somewhere around, 10 or 12%.
Okay, so all right, 10 or 12%. So is that a third, you think, of what we're talking about? Pretty close to a third, little under a third,
Well,
of
the way to
project, of the houses.
calculate, the way to calculate the impact is it'll have no impact on our expenses this time. Looking out to the next cycle, it'll reduce the next cycle, and then it'll reduce the following cycle that much more, and the following cycle that much more. So when you're dealing with a reserve study, what happens in those out years, 8 years, 16 years, 24 years out, will have potentially significant implications. But Browning's going to have to figure out a way to work a formula for that, along with whatever corrections he makes about how many sheets are going to have to be replaced, because it's turned out we've had to replace more sheets than he had projected. So we're going to have forces pushing things up and forces pushing things down, and how they're going to come out in the end, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I
We won't know.
appreciate any help that anybody wants to give me in terms of trying to interpret these diagrams.
Well, I'm really used to looking at floor plans and, elevations if you need help.
Yeah, it's the elevations we've got to look at
Yeah.
and figure
Well,
out how
I'm-
many.
I'm putting that down in my notes, Nina.
Yeah, okay. I know how to count siding sheets.
Yeah, well, we've got 8, 9, and 10 footers too. And then we've got partial
Yeah,
sheets.
you might, you would have that, yeah. Yeah. Well,
Well, great.
Al has good construction background, so.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So Al's going to help too?
Well, he understands the construction piece of it
Oh,
quite a
great.
lot.
Well, we could set up a time to meet in the clubhouse and do an initial examination of what we've got and see.
All right.
I'm back from the gym by 10:30 every day, and after that I can pretty much do it any day.
If I may interject, Nina, I have
Yeah.
I have PDFs of those files, which I can forward to you.
That would be helpful.
Yeah,
because you can-
Oh,
I tried working with those. They're
Well, they're harder to see than a big
Yeah,
thing.
hard to
so,
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least we have some good idea. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that.
You betcha. Thank you.
So any other thoughts? Well, if anybody has any thoughts about other things that we need to alert Browning on that will influence the reserve study, let me know, or let's bring it up at the next meeting.
board's gonna have to decide on whether they want to set it at 8-year cycles or 6-year cycles on siding and painting. That's a
What's it at
policy
now? Is it
decision.
at 8 or 6 now?
Well, historically, Browning's always planned on 6. The past board extended this one out to 8. So there are arguments for both, but it's a policy decision the board's got to make. And of course, I guess some future board could modify it, but he needs that for planning. Otherwise, he'll use 6 automatic.
I mean, it
It's going to
does
be an estimate, no matter how we do this, because where you're taking things off is dependent upon how much sun it's getting, right? I mean, all that it plays into it. It's never going to be a straight percentage, probably.
No, but we do know when we went from a 6 to a 12-year, the difference in the number of sheets replaced was pretty linear. In other words, we replaced about twice as many sheets at 12 years as we had in the past at 6 years. So, we don't know for sure, but we can sort of use a linear assumption for planning. the one savings we make in going to an 8-year is we stretch the painting cycle by 1/3. And the paint is not going bad in 8 years. So we may have to replace 1/3 more sheets. But if we save 1/3 on the painting, then at least we've saved something, not a huge amount, but something.
No, I think we probably save some in just pushing the siding out too. I mean, yeah, we replace the same number of sheets, but there's that, you know, in the future, 30 years from now, if we push one cycle off of the budget, then we do have the possibility of saving. I mean, we could figure that out.
Yeah. The reality is, I mean, we're gonna have to, you know, no matter how we do it, we're gonna have the same number of sheets go bad on us. That's, you know, it's just water and sun and most of the really bad damage they've encountered this time has been a result of irrigation sprinkler problems. I mean, there's other wear out, but that's where the really serious problems have occurred.
You know, one thing is that I don't think we've ever kept track of which sheets are replaced. You know, so we don't know
No.
whether we're replacing the same sheets every cycle versus, you know, okay, these are bad, but the ones we replaced last time are good, and now we're replacing this next batch. But if it's the same panels that we're replacing every time, then we may have some savings in replacing the T111 with the Duratemp board.
They have a hint. They're able to sort of, by looking at the sheets, they kind of can tell which of the multiple cycles they've gone through in some cases. But you're right, we don't have a record. You know, we would need an inventory of every sheet on every house, you know, and it's sheet number 23 west.
Yeah.
Or whatever, you know.
I mean, you
everyone-
could do that if you had it automated, you know, if it were just in a program. But, you know, we're just really at the point now where we can keep track of that stuff if we wanted to. I mean, and we have a project manager who has no doubt automated a lot of this stuff.
Some of it, but nobody has a diagram of exactly which sheets have been replaced yet. I mean, he hasn't produced that.
Yeah.
We know which walls they've come off of, but or which elevation.
Okay, well, I put on here on the old business information about current investments because Mary brought that up at the last meeting and I just wanted to follow up on that. I think, Dusty, you said that you would get information on that. Is that something that you have, or shall we just keep that on the agenda for the next meeting?
I don't have any information on it right now. That is another item that Andy is looking into for investments. So hopefully we'll have some information to share on that by the next meeting.
Okay, all right.
You know, they're all listed in the financial report, so you can very quickly see what we've got.
Right.
You know, Susan,
Yeah,
we
if
also
I'm-
have.
If I may
sorry.
comment,
Pardon?
Yeah, oh, Nina, let's hear from Nina first and then you, Bill, okay?
fine, yes, please.
I just thought, Susan, we do have the numbers for the pool. So we could at least note it in our meeting minutes. And the only reason I say that is because then the board does have the costs on those, but you know, simple numbers in there might be helpful as just a reference point, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether the amount approved was the amount in that proposal that I sent around to you. That was the only thing that I was
Okay,
worrying about.
understand, got it.
Bill,
In the board minutes.
oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
With regard to the pool, yes, it was in the board minutes. the minutes of the May 3rd meeting. And if I recall correctly, it was followed up in the newsletter.
Yes, it
And it was
was.
approved as proposed.
Would you mind sharing that amount since I mean, just for the minutes, I'll put that down.
Should be
Approved.
38,700.
Okay.
That's correct.
Did we approve the option or the upgraded finish or no?
No,
No,
Okay.
we did not.
Okay, thank you. Got it.
and interestingly enough, it was in the reserves, study, it was scheduled. Maintenance was scheduled for in 2024.
Mhm.
So we got close. So,
Yeah.
and that,
So it'll show an expense this year, but it'll remove an expense from 2024.
yep, it'll pull back. And the next time
Yeah.
we get touched on this is in 2048 for the reserve study. So,
Well, hopefully we'll be as close as we were this time.
For this pool.
Yeah,
For
for
this
this
pool,
pool.
right?
Yeah.
For this pool, yeah. Okay.
you know, wait, you'll learn picking through the reserve study. It becomes a kind of an interesting thing.
Mhm.
Regarding the investments, the investment report, one of the things that caught my eye in the financials is we show a large, substantial funds with Morgan Stanley. We get into the detail of their report. You find that we've got the funds appear to have been reinvested in higher rated treasuries and that stuff. I'm just looking here at two of them off of one page is at 5.25% maturing in September of 24, 5.25% in September. So there is something there. So we just need to what shows up in the finance package and investment report is a little misleading as to what the rate is on the treasuries. Remember, treasuries are purchased at a discount, and I'm sure Tara can better explain how that all works than this guy here. So, but I was pleased to see that.
Yeah, well, I think a couple of months ago, we approved some investment activity. Carla
Yes.
Chung, the first service person, as you know.
Yes.
Uh,
Dumping some low interest, paying the penalties, dumping some low interest CDs and reinvesting the money.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And when you go from 0.5% to 4.5%,
It's
you
a
can
big,
afford to pay some penalty.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I didn't think there was really anything new in that department, but I wanted to follow up just as courtesy to Mary. So new business, May financials. Does anybody have any questions for Dusty?
You could always email me at any time if any questions arise. I'll be happy to respond.
And we've already kind of talked about the reserve tracker. Did anyone have any other things that they wanted to raise about the reserve tracker besides the pool and the siding and painting?
It'd be nice to have the landscapes committee preview of what might be coming in terms of, I think it's mostly trees at this point that, they're looking at, because they've got a lot of cycles of looking at trees coming up. So it might be a good to have a projection coming forward of some sort. I know they were going through zone by zone and looking, and just be good to have kind of a peek at what they're thinking about. 'Cause I think the first one, I don't know, it was $30,000 or something.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be great.
So if we did that times 7, or it was more than that because it's about 210,000, but between 200 and 300,000 coming forward. I can't remember what the first package was that was approved, but if we multiplied that by 7, and I know that that's not an exact, some zones are bigger than others, but it'd be good to have some kind of projection.
It's really hard to provide a projection when it comes to that, because like you just said, every zone is different. There's gonna be
Yeah.
different kinds of trees with different needs, different,
Yeah,
they're
of
different
course.
ages. I mean,
Absolutely,
it's
yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
an
I
impossible
understand.
component to project, but
Well, the grounds committee is pretty awesome. And they might be able to give us a rough estimate, even, I mean, I know that, when they're in their contracting, they have an expectation for, spending a certain amount. And, if there's, oh, Cheryl, yeah, Cheryl is on the call. Maybe, do you have anything that you'd like to say just about projections, Cheryl, for tree expenses?
I think each tree walk we've had, the prices have varied. We've had proposals for 1 and 2, zones 1 and 2, and they're in the $40,000-$50,000 range. Much of that has to do with trying to anticipate where we spend money wisely now. And again, that idea of looking forward, we've had enough problems with trees through the storm that we're trying to be extra careful and making sure that we mitigate anything that can be future problems. So there is money that we project in the budget for trees. We've exceeded that so far, but we don't know what's going to be happening in the other tree walks. There will be work done, and probably our next executive board meeting, we'll be talking about how we bring forward to the board grounds information. We've been doing zone walks, which is not the trees, but doing them, accumulating information because we need it for budget purposes. What do we anticipate having to spend over the next period of time? But we don't have that information right now.
Well, I'm just delighted that you're thinking about it. And then that will be helpful for us too. Thank you, Cheryl.
Welcome.
So if we took a 40,000 and did it times 7, and I understand this is going to be different everywhere, but it could be somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000. And I think we can just, keep the tick in the back of our head unless we decide to really cut that back. That's what it would be coming down to.
Yeah.
I'm not looking. I wasn't looking for absolutely accurate numbers. I just thought, might be good to have some sense of it. That's it.
Yeah.
There
Absolutely.
is, we have worked with Carson, sorry, this is Cheryl again. We have worked with Carson to look at these tree reports, to do something similar to what we've done on landscaping, and that's to come up with a priority system. They can look at things. It's not easy to do, but in trying to say what we have budgeted and what is probably critical that we do right now for safety and for future ease of maintenance. So we have 3 categories from them. And when those proposals for the tree studies, tree walks come through, they will have 3 categories in them. And then the board can look at whether or not something should be deferred within each one of those proposals. But so far, we have approved the entire package rather than take the small pieces out of it.
Okay. That's helpful. Okay. We already talked about scheduling Browning for the August Finance Committee meeting. Let's see, this, the next meeting, July 24th. How's that for everybody? You in town? Will, Tara, Nina?
I believe.
July 24th, as far as I
Yeah.
know.
Okay. All right.
I'm always available.
Yeah, yeah, even if you're on vacation.
No, you know where I work. It's a busy time of year.
Yeah, it is a busy time of year. Okay. All right, well, if that's it, I would love to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Susan?
Yep.
Susan,
Yeah,
are you considering having any more homeowners comments?
sure, yeah.
I apologize. I thought you were going to have some at the end, and that's why I spoke in the middle of the meeting. But then I see on the agenda there aren't any at the end, like in most meetings. So as I suggested when I said something earlier, you guys meet the last week of each month, and if you're meeting the last week of August with Bob Browning, and it tends to take him a bit of time to turn anything around. So maybe you can expect that he would take your information and pencil it in on the reserve study, and maybe you would get that by mid-September, but hopefully by your end of September meeting, but maybe not. You'd have to confirm that with him. So if you got that look, that view of the reserve study with the changes in it at the last week of September, and I believe the board needs their input by their meeting in November, as far as budgeting for the next year, and approving things, that leaves you a very narrow space to take any deep dives that you might choose to do, or to get any additional information you might want to get. So I just wanted to note that you guys will be under quite a crunch on that schedule, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a little bit better than you think. When we meet with him, he's already got a first draft. So we're getting him more information before August. And we also need to find out whether he's doing a site visit. And so we have more information that is due us, and we'll keep everybody apprised. Thank you, Carol. All right, I heard a motion to adjourn. And anyone want to second it?
I'll second it.
Okay,
I'll
thank you.
third it.
All right, I'll fourth it. Okay, thanks, everybody. Thanks for your time.
Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.